Yul, Danny, hey, congratulations. And this is a testament to both of your acting skills because when I watch a lot of these scenes at the Mutiny Club, there's all these extras, the dancing, the lights, and all these things that are happening all around you. As actors, how do you not get distracted by all the stuff that's actually happening in the background for the series? What's your guys' secret?
Yeah,
I'm not distracted at all by any of it.
no, it's he's yeah,
What are these microphones and these lights?
it's hard. It really is hard, and sometimes you you can you're tested. Let's just say your patience is tested. Yeah, it is. It great question. It's very, very hard for me. Very hard.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where and it's a fantastic question because a lot of people don't realize exactly what happens. They usually play the song, right? They cue us into the song so that the background artist can get the rhythm of the song that's going to be played, and then they kill the song so that the background artist can continue with the rhythm so that we can say our lines in silence so that we don't have to record the line over and over again for clarity. And that it gets a little strange because you can still hear the foot, the heels and the platform shoes stomping on the dance floor. So it's a little bit distracting in that way. What helps is to have an actor like that, right? When you have an actor like Yul and you have words by Chris Brancato and Michael Payne's where you're engaging in a scene that matters and has, life and death, circumstances and ramifications, that tends to crystallize everything. You start getting much more focused.
Yeah, I suppose Danny's right. All we have really is each other, and that helps. Having him is anchors things for me. Him touching my ear, that always helps.
I never get distracted at all.
No, he's never distracted at all. No, he's right. Exactly what he said. It becomes a very interesting challenge, because it's all the things that the audience never sees, the old saying, you don't want to see how the sausage is made. That's really true.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you. Great.
Good to see you side by side and not feuding.
Well, we're feuding. We're just side by side.
Yeah.
No, there you go. Makes sense. I'm curious watching this. I mean, just incredible performances by both of you. Polar opposites, but in the best way.
Thank you.
Would you be able individually to replicate what your character has done for one day? You think you have it in you to be that? And if you had one day to be given to be like your character, would you be able to pull it off?
No way.
No way.
No way.
Nope. You can have it. No, thank you.
Good to know. I was wondering if there's a wild side potential or a risk taker side, but with each of you, maybe that would be willing to take that challenge.
Well, I think we're both risk takers. We're both actors.
Yeah.
So I think naturally we're gamblers. But there's a difference between doing what we do and the life and death circumstances that follow both of these characters virtually in every scene.
Yeah. No.
Good. That's probably a good thing. Just curious if you ever wondered, like, oh, I wonder what I would do in that situation.
Not only could I not handle the life and death situations, but the platform heels, no way.
Those are murder on your back.
Murder.
Thanks, guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Mauricio from Popticular, you're next.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good, Mauricio. How are you?
Excited to talk to you. So the mutiny for us people living in Miami is such a staple and such an icon of an era, of the era that created the backbone of what Miami really is as a city. There's glitz, there's glamour, there's craziness, but there's also a backside that's prone to crime and other stuff. For you, Danny, you're a fellow Miamian and a fellow FIU. You grew here. You know this city. What does it mean to portray this era that shaped what Miami is nowadays?
That's a fantastic question, Mauricio. We're both from Miami, so I mean, we talked about it all the time. We talked about not only the impact of the mutiny, but the impact of the 70s. It was such a transformative period for our city. It really changed Miami from being a sort of sleepy retirement community vacation spot to a cosmopolitan hotspot. And then it changed that. Mutiny even upped the ante on that, and it became a hedonistic pleasure palace, right? Where people were flying in from all over the world to have an adult experience at the Mutiny. I've actually stayed at the Mutiny. It's not what it was before. It is now much more low key. It's like a hotel, residential, sort of establishment now. But the structure is still the same. The pool is still the same. You still feel like if the walls could talk, you'd be hearing some fantastic stories. And I think that that's what our show does. The walls talk in our story.
Yeah.
So cool. Thank you, guys.
Of course.
Okay, you're next.
Hi, Lorraine from Nuestra Voz Latina. How are you, Danny and Yul?
How are you?
Bien. Hola,
I'm
Lorraine.
good. Muy bien. Happy to be here with you guys.
Same here.
So, as you reflect back to all the roles that you have played throughout your career, what lessons have you taken from those roles that have helped you in your role in Hotel Cocaine today? How has it shaped you to be the actor you are today in those roles?
You mean our personal lives?
Well, it could be your personal lives or the roles you have played in your career.
Oh,
throughout your-
how do the roles in our career shape the roles that we played now?
Yes.
I mean, I think, you know, I think every stitch is a stitch in the fabric of an actor's career. You know, you try to vary it as much as you can, and then you decide the parts depending on who's involved and whose hands it's in, and so I think everything feeds everything. You know, I also paint. I'm a photographer and I'm a musician. So everything feeds everything. It's not, I don't think one takes away from the other. I think I see everything as one, orb. So I think everything in life feeds everything. You know, meeting everyone here. I think it's a succession of events for me. That's how I think that's how we arrive at where we are today.
But Yul's a renaissance man. I mean, Yul does everything incredibly well. For me, it's talking about different characters and how it sort of leads now to Roman Compte, the general manager of the Mutiny Club and Hotel. I've played characters who were on the right side of the law. In fact, they were the law. And now, I've in, two successive shows, whether it's Mayans MC or Hotel Cocaine, playing characters sort of on, you could potentially consider an outlaw, right? What I find, and I think this goes to the heart of your question, the sort of through line for the characters is with great writing, whether it's Meredith Steam on Cold Case, whether it's Warren Light on Law and Order SVU, whether it's Elgin James on Mayans, or Chris Brancato now at Hotel Cocaine. All of those showrunners are fantastic at developing a character who rides the line between being, on the right side of the law and a potential criminality, right? And so all of those characters, whether it was, Scotty Valens on Cold Case, where he had some anger issues and would go back and forth between being able to control that, or Nick Amaro, who also was going back and forth between being able to control his anger and his frustrations and whatnot within his job and within his family. And you can say similar things about Miguel Galindo, and now we arrive at Roman Compte, who also has to ride that line. And so it's just like what Yul says, there is a building and a learning from each experience, especially when the writing is so dialed in and so challenging for an actor, which is the best thing that we can have, is that sort of range to be able to carve through a performance and go back and forth between scenes that you're like, I really love this guy. I could absolutely see myself doing exactly what he's doing. And the very next scene, you're like, how could you choose to do that? I hate this person.
Right.
Right. And so that's really the currency that actors love to deal in.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kimmy from Athleisure Mag. I have been a fan of both of your works and other shows, as well as obviously in Hotel Cocaine. You know, why were you attracted to this series? Why did you want to be a part of it?
Thank you for the question. Yul Vazquez. That's my short answer. You know, I'm not saying that because he's here, but he is. He's right here.
He's right there.
And I was just playing with his ear. But the reality is that the first phone call I got about Hotel Cocaine came from Yul. Yul and I, you know, there are not a lot of Cuban Americans in Hollywood, right? And so whenever I would go to, you know, an event, and I'd meet other Cuban Americans, we'd eventually land on, have you met Yul Vazquez? And I'd say, no, I haven't met him. I know of him. We have mutual friends, and he's a fantastic actor, but I have not yet met him. Or I'd go to a set, and somebody in the crew or somebody in the cast would be like, well, you're Cuban American. Have you met Yul? And we'd have the same conversation. I love his work. I haven't met him. And then we happened to meet on Law and Order SVU. And we became fast friends. It's like when you meet somebody that you feel like you've known your entire life. And I'm not talking about like your entire acting life. I'm talking about like, were you at my 15s? Were you at like my baptism? Because I feel like you must have been in the Catholic Church with us, right?
I was a priest.
Ooh.
Wow.
Anyway, let's move on. The phone call where Yul calls me and he says, look, I've been working on the show, The Godfather of Harlem, with Forrest Whitaker, the fantastic Forrest Whitaker, and with Chris Brancato, who's the co-creator of Narcos. And there's this show set in Miami, 1978. It's called Hotel Cocaine. It's based on the mutiny, and we'd be playing brothers. And I said, I'm in. And he was like, well, maybe you should read the script. And I'm like, wait, maybe I should read the script. Maybe I should read the script. But that's the short answer to your question is once Yul kind of set that up, I was already, the momentum and the inertia towards doing this was already in motion.
I mean, pretty much the same for me. I mean, Danny really was the only choice really for this. It was too perfect. But you know, sometimes when something is so perfect, it doesn't wind up happening.
Right.
You know, it's like this is a no-brainer, and then suddenly if it doesn't happen. But this was one of those times where the no-brainer happened the way it was supposed to happen. I absolutely love working with Danny, and he knows that is the truth. I know that I can stand there with him and we can get through any scene, no matter what the journey of the scene is, and we work around it and we figure it out, and we get to the end of the scene. I know when he opens his mouth, I'm going to believe everything he says. That they sound like simple, obvious things, but not always the case. Not always the case. And I always knew with Danny, I was going to have a guy that was there today, not a guy who decided how he was going to do this 3 weeks ago. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, rehearsed it in the mirror, because that's one thing that makes me insane. You know, when I get somebody, I'm like, no matter what you do, this person is going to do the same thing because they've locked themselves into this thing. And we figured out this flow with this whole thing, and we improvised a lot of things, and we had the freedom from Chris Brancato, Michael Paines, and Guillermo Navarro, who was a huge part of the design and the brains and the engine of this show, and encouraged us to be like, you guys know this world better than any of us is going to know. You know what it is to be in Miami, from a Cuban from Miami. So we that's what we did. That's really what we did. And I think we brought a lot of ourselves into the thing more so than I think I've ever done.
I mean,
You know?
you're talking to a musician artist in
Yeah.
Yul. I mean, he would come at the scenes with the same words, but in a totally different way. So to be present and to be able to play jazz with him all the time. And a lot of the script is written in English. And we know, as many Cuban Americans know and many Latinos know, that we don't speak in English all the time.
Correct.
Our probably chosen language, our first language is Spanglish. And so we would manipulate some of the script to have the same intention, to have the same wording, but to be able to go back and forth fluidly in Spanish to give the authenticity of what you would hear, not only in that time period, but modern day Miami.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for one last with Matthew here.
Hey, I'm actually going to piggyback a little bit off of what Lorraine was asking, because Yul, for as many things as I've seen you in my life, I sometimes see your face and can only ever think of your character from Seinfeld at first.
Yeah.
And that's a character that is kind of overpowering and shows that through emotion, compared to Nestor, who is somebody who is extremely powerful, but is more of like a silencing menace. And I'm wondering, is there a certain archetype through as a performer that makes you feel more powerful yourself?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The character on Seinfeld, the Seinfeld audition is, you're talking about 1995. The Seinfeld audition came. This is the honest truth. It came, one of those auditions when you're in LA and you get a phone call and you have to be at CBS Radford in 20 minutes. They're this new character they've written that starts working tomorrow, and it was Bob the intimidating gay guy. And I literally go there and I look at the side, and then and Jerry and Larry David in the room, and I didn't know what I was going to do with this thing. So what you're seeing is an imitation of my mother, and that's really, frankly, what it is. So it was something I could I'm just going to do this, and I did it, and they were like, "What the hell is that?" And then, "Can you do it again?" And I did it again, and then the rest is history. But that's really what it is. There was not a lot of time there to make any decisions because it was all very fast. Remember those auditions? You'd be like,
Yeah.
You'd be like,
almost a cold read.
yeah, it's a cold read.
Yeah.
It works tomorrow. Like one of those things, because they would write these characters. So that's the truth of what that was. That's an impersonation of my mother, who was a very, very intimidating, tiny woman, who would backhand you into next week, so that's really true. Nestor is
No chancleta? She didn't do the chancleta. It was more of a backhand.
no, it was more like a bowling ball. Like
the
the
bowling ball.
chancleta was too
Chancleta,
light.
yeah,
It was just,
the
this
chancleta was the appetizer.
didn't have enough heft. It was like a bat. But so Nestor's is a more layered human. There's complexities with a brother, with a guy who cannot have children, who basically his goddaughter is like his daughter, and he spoils her, and because it's a different, way different. You have to dial that in, and then he has moments of his explosion, because he's a explosive character, but it's a way different. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed Seinfeld. That's
I enjoy all of it. Yeah. Thank you.